I've collected all the de-extinction shorts that I've made so far for easier viewing. I hope you find it enjoyable. My apologies if the earlier shorts are of lower quality than the later ones. Our ancestors caused the extinction of a large proportion of Earth's megafauna, as well as many other animals. We now have access to technology capable of bringing many of these creatures back to life. Companies like Colossal are attempting to do just that with the woolly mammoth, and I believe it's our duty to do so. Mainly for moral reasons. Just as humanity killed them off, humanity should bring them back. But if this isn't reason enough for you, then from a purely self-serving point of view, it will improve our ability to do gene editing, which will likely have positive effects for human health. It will reintroduce many keystone species to the environment that have suffered without them. And how cool would it be to see a live mammoth, or dodo, or thylacine? This series will go through some of the species we have caused to go extinct that I think we should de-extinct, and give some backstory to them. If you're interested in hearing about some of these fascinating creatures, please subscribe. The first chapter will be released tomorrow and is focusing on Stella's sea cow. Stella's sea cow was discovered in 1741, and within 27 years it was hunted to extinction. It weighed about 10 tons and could reach lengths of 9 meters, 3 times the length of its closest living relative, the dugong. It was found around the Commander Islands in the Bering Sea between Russia and Alaska. It's unknown whether the sea cow had any natural predators, but it's speculated that its positive buoyancy may have made it difficult for orcas to drown. They were highly social, living in small family groups, taking care of injured members and protecting their young. They were believed to be monogamous, and one report tells that when a female was captured during a hunt, her mate followed her to shore even after she had died. This may be a difficult species to bring back. I do not believe any samples containing usable DNA have been found, and even if they were, if you managed to inseminate their closest relative, the dugong, I picture a xenomorph chestburster scenario occurring. Okay, not really, but they probably wouldn't be able to get enough nutrients. Reviving this species may require more development in cloning vats, which is a cooler way of saying artificial wombs. I imagine they could be reintroduced directly back into their native range once cloned, as nothing has taken over the niche it once occupied. Colossal is a company attempting to reverse extinction. They are currently working to de-extinct 3 species, the woolly mammoth, the thylacine, and the dodo. The first on the list is the woolly mammoth, which they have set a target of bringing back by 2028. To be clear, this will not be a purebred woolly mammoth, although the last mammoths we had on Wrangel Island 4,000 years ago were very inbred, so this may not be a bad thing. They will instead be an amalgamation of the woolly mammoth and the Asian elephant, its closest living relative. They share 99.6% of their DNA, and so Colossal hopes to create a proxy species that can fill the mammoth's niche by swapping enough key mammoth genes into the elephant's genome. Mammoths are a keystone species of the Arctic, and scientists believe that reintroducing them will help improve biodiversity and prevent climate change. They are targeting these 3 creatures, presumably as they are the big names that will capture the imagination of the public, but I'm hopeful they will continue their project into other animals we discuss in this series, especially Stella's sea cow, which has a special place in my heart. The dodo was a flightless bird endemic to Mauritius. It was discovered in 1598 by the Dutch, and its last recorded sighting was in 1662. The dodo had no natural predators, and likely because of this laid 1 egg per year. With man came the introduction of invasive species, which had a taste for these eggs. The dodo had no chance. With them being perhaps the most famous example of human-caused extinction, it seems natural that they are one of the 3 species Colossal is focused on de-extincting. The first step is sequencing avian genomes, which as far as I can tell is a field in its childhood if not its infancy. Once this is done, it seems Colossal is going to attempt to engineer traits of the dodo into its closest living relative, the Nicobar pigeon, progressively increasing the size and changing the characteristics of these proto-dodos over generations. They are currently limited by the technology of our time, on the number of edits they can make in one go. But technology is improving in the field, and as I personally suspect we will have AGI in the next few years, I imagine this technology limitation will disappear. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and let me know which animals you think we should de-extinct in the comments. The thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian tiger, was a carnivorous marsupial that was native to the Australian mainland and the islands of Tasmania and New Guinea, although by the time Europeans arrived it only remained in Tasmania. Thylacines hunted the settlers' sheep. In 1830, private bounties on them began and were followed in 1888 by government-sponsored bounties. The last wild thylacine was killed between 1910 and 1920, and the last captive specimen died in 1936. In order to de-extinct the thylacine, Colossal has taken the following steps. Sequence the thylacine genome, which was completed in 2018, as well as the genomes of its closest living relatives. They will then use computational biology to determine which genes will make the host organism more thylacine-like, and then implant these genes using CRISPR. Next, they will transfer the nucleus of this thylacine-like cell into a dasarid egg, which will then be implanted into a surrogate. It will gestate for around 42 days, and then a baby thylacine-like creature will be born. Which animals would you like to see de-extincted? Let me know in the comments. Moa are a group of huge flightless birds endemic to New Zealand. The largest was 3.6 meters or 12 foot in height and weighed around 230 kilograms. They filled a similar ecological niche that llamas or antelope do in other environments, eating fibrous twigs and leaves. Much to my surprise, it wasn't Europeans that killed it off this time, it was the Maori. They arrived in New Zealand around 1300 and by 1445 all the moa were hunted to extinction. With the death of the moa came the extinction of Haast's eagle, the largest eagle ever to exist, which hunted the smaller moa species. Haast's eagle could reach weights of up to 18 kilograms, which is like a large flying border collie. Interestingly, until human colonization of New Zealand, which introduced rodents and cats, all the major niches in the animal ecology were occupied or dominated by birds. Once Colossal has improved the gene sequencing technology for avians for its de-extinction efforts with the dodo, the moa would be an obvious next step, and it would make sense to bring Haast's eagle back while they're at it. South America used to have some crazy stuff. I mean, it still does, but I meant the non-human kind. These included heavily armoured armadillos the size of cars and the subject of today's video, giant ground sloths, or sloths if you're David Attenborough. These were sloths of comparable size to elephants and filled a similar ecological niche as mega herbivores. The two largest types were Megatherium and Ermotherium, of which the latter was slightly larger, so I'll use its measurements henceforth, because bigger obviously equals cooler to my lizard brain. They weighed up to 6.5 tons and could grow up to 6 meters or 20 foot long. Both species are thought to have been obligate herbivores, Megatherium eating foliage, twigs and fruit, while Ermotherium is thought to have a grass-based diet due to its teeth lacking enamel. They walked around on 4 legs, but are thought to have been able to adopt a bipedal stance when browsing high branches for food. They only went extinct around 11,000 years ago, which coincides with humans arriving in the Americas. Similar to the elephants in Africa, I imagine there's some function that the giant ground sloths played in the South American ecosystem that's no longer being fulfilled. This could have been knocking down trees so that saplings could emerge, or something else we haven't figured out yet, but I suspect something was lost with their extinction. Let's bring the saber-toothed tiger back. Smilodon was a genus of felids. The largest species was Smilodon populator, which weighed up to 440 kilograms and was 1.2 meters tall. They are famous for their large canine teeth, which could be 11 inches long. Hey, get your mind out of the gutter. Their teeth are adapted for dispatching large herbivores quickly, such as horses, ground sloths, and possibly young and sick mammoths. It's thought to have killed its prey by holding it still with its forelimbs and biting it, probably in a vital spot like the neck. There is some debate about this, but they are now thought to have lived in social groups, as evidenced by fossilized bones showing signs of healed injuries. Modern-day solitary big cats rarely survive serious injuries as they can't hunt. If this is the case that they hunted in packs, this is terrifying. It went extinct around 10,000 years ago. This is likely due to its reliance on large prey, many of which went extinct around the same time as it. Human hunting either of its prey or Smilodon itself may have also played a role. If Smilodon was de-extinction, do you think it should be kept in reserves or released back into the wild? Let me know in the comments. With the Smilodon done, we have now covered all 3 of Ice Age's main characters in this de-extinction series, so check out the giant ground sloth and mammoth videos. Neanderthals are our closest relatives. The depiction we have of them being these ooga-booga primitive creatures is completely wrong. They were actually quite sophisticated, having a stone tool industry, being capable of making fire and clothes, seafaring throughout the Mediterranean, and using medicinal plants. We were also thought to have interbred with them at points in history, so our ancestors can't have seen them as beneath us. The males had an average height of 5'5" and the females 5 foot, so the males might struggle getting a like on Tinder. I think we should bring them back. They are thought to have been at least as intelligent as humans and were capable of speech, so it's not as if we would be creating a subhuman slave species. In fact, we may be able to learn something from each other. We don't have to be the last humans left. An obvious problem could be the speciesism that could occur, which would be like racism dialed up to the max, and easily justified by those inclined to do so, as there will be substantive differences between us and them. It would be interesting to see if we are advanced enough as a species to avoid this. I think it might be a wise thing to do, to learn if we are capable of getting along with a consciousness equal but different to us, before we bring one into existence that is vastly more powerful than us. I refer to AGI, of course. Is it morally right to de-extinct species? I've talked a lot about various species I think we should de-extinct, and it begs the question of is it the correct thing to do. I think a few things have to be considered when debating which species to de-extinct, particularly if we're going to be releasing them into the wild. The first is, did we kill them off? For species which humanity directly caused to go extinct, I think that to some degree we have a duty to bring them back. We are more obliged to bring back the dodo and thylacine than we are the T-Rex. The second is their danger level versus their proximity to humans. If we are going to release herds of mammoth into Siberia or northern Canada, this will cause a lot less damage to humans than if we release saber-toothed tigers in Los Angeles. We need to carefully judge if and where to release animals back into the wild. The third is their impact on the ecosystem. This is less relevant for species that have gone extinct in the last 10 or 20,000 years because it's unlikely that anything will have evolved to fit the same niche yet. But if we were to de-extinct dinosaurs, then in many cases they would outcompete current species, which would not be good. Species like the mammoth and giant ground sloth would slot back into the niche they previously occupied, and as nothing is currently filling those niches, it's thought that they may benefit the ecology. Do you have any other concerns about de-extinction? Well, that's all of them so far. I apologise for the lack of long-form content I've uploaded recently. I've been working on 3 longer videos, not including this one, in parallel, and they're all now nearing completion, so there'll be quite a lot of content released in the next few weeks. If you'd like to see that, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and sharing it amongst your friends.